You don't have to go back many years to remember when spending £60,000 on a cinema camera gave you a look and a quality that most of us could only dream of. But now that most cameras can shoot log or even RAW with its infinite grading possibilities, well, what's the point? Can't we just grade any camera to look like any other camera? Now, I've been very lucky because I've been able to borrow and use some amazing cameras from all the big names. For years, we've all looked up to the Arri Alexa. There's something about the way it handles highlights that's set it apart from everything else. But then there was Red, with its outstanding resolution and clarity, perfect for CGI work. And let's not forget Canon, with its wonderful skin tones for people on a television budget. Or if you were really on a budget, Blackmagic, whose colour science has always punched way above its weight. And finally Sony, who've basically been rubbish with colour until the Venice came along and changed everything. Okay, I know that you know I didn't really have all those cameras on the beach, but I was having a bit of fun with some software I've discovered called CineMatch. They're calling this a revolutionary camera matching tool, and it's from the people that did the very impressive Film Convert, so that's positive. Now, I'm probably not being very fair by using this software to make my camera look like other cameras, because actually it's a serious tool and the clue's in the name. CineMatch. It's designed to match the log profiles across different cameras from different manufacturers and even different camera models. So every camera that CineMatch have analysed, you can match to any other camera they've analysed at a log level prior to doing the grade. Now, there are lots of good reasons why you might want to do this. Maybe you've got a multi-camera shoot and you can't have the same cameras. Or maybe you've got a production with multiple locations, possibly across the world, and with all the travel restrictions, you might not be able to get the same cameras in every location. When you come to the edit, the ability to match everything at a log level could be a massive time saver. Now, CineMatch say they've already spent 4 years working on this, and it's not an easy thing to do because you've got to analyse every individual camera separately. And it's not just the colour science of the camera, it's also the hardware side of it, like the colour filter array, which can change the look of your image fundamentally. They've already analysed quite a range of cinema cameras, and I'm told they've recently added even the iPhone 12 to that list as well. So let's take a closer look. CineMatch is currently available for DaVinci Resolve and Premiere Pro. They also promise there'll be a Final Cut Pro version coming shortly. Now, I'm using Resolve here, but it looks as though the principles of how you use this software are much the same across whatever edit software you're using. I've got the log footage that I was playing with earlier, and CineMatch installs just like any other plugin. I like to put CineMatch on its own node right at the beginning, before you do any other sort of grade, but whatever workflow works for you. So open FX, scroll to the bottom, and you should see the CineMatch. Drag it straight onto the empty node, and all the CineMatch settings then appear. Something you need to decide early on is which is your primary camera, the primary look for the whole production, and which are the odd cameras out, because you need to match the secondary cameras, the odd ones, to the primary. Makes sense. The first thing you do is choose the source camera profile. So in this case, my camera was a Sony, and it was a A7S III, and I shot with S-Log3, S-Gamut3, XAVCS, and we can leave the bottom choice on limited because we're not shooting RAW, we haven't got the massive data rates or anything. It reads that from the metadata. And then apply. So that's our source camera settings. So the next thing is you choose your target profile, what you want your log to look like. So let's choose in this case, say a Canon, a nice new C70, and maybe C-Log3 with the natural gamut. Again, it defaults to limited, which is fine. Hit OK, and you can immediately see on the screen, it now looks like Canon log. It's that simple. You can do some primary adjustments within CineMatch before you move on to the rest of the grade. You can even apply a default 709 LUT. You can adjust the exposure, the color temperature, and even the green magenta tint. If you haven't got all of your cameras looking identical for exposure and color balance and stuff like that prior to the shoot, then this will help you out afterwards, because the idea is to get all of the log footage looking identical before you start the grade. And we can see from here that this footage already looks very Canon-like. But the big test is, can you match two completely different cameras? So what I've got here is a shot I've taken with two completely different cameras. It's a scene I like to use when I'm looking at dynamic range. Unfortunately, they were taken at different times of the day, even different times of the year. But it'll give us an idea if CineMatch can get us in the ballpark, make it easier to match these two cameras. Now, the first camera was a Panasonic S1H with Vlog, so we'll use that as the primary camera. Now, it's a good idea to put CineMatch on everything you're using. Choose your camera source profile, which of course is Panasonic S1H in Vlog Limited. Apply it, but don't set a target profile. You can then put your 709 LUT on, tweak the exposure to make it look right. Okay, that's a reasonable looking picture. Now we basically do the same with the camera we're matching. Put the CineMatch plug-in on. Now our source camera is the Sony A7S III, and I'm shooting in S-Log3 Cinegamut XAVC. Again, it's limited. But now we're going to set the target camera as our Panasonic S1H in Vlog. Hit apply. That's changed all the colours and the tones. I can put the LUT on, get the exposure looking right. Quick tweak to match the colour temperature, and we can see that these are very close. Now this shot is really difficult to compare because it's a different time of day, different time of year even. But we can already see from the shade on this difficult to match wall here that the colours are really close. I reckon a couple of minutes with CineMatch has saved me ages of manually tweaking trying to get things close, which takes forever. Now I could tell you that if you start off with, say, two shots from two different cameras of a perfectly exposed colour chart, then CineMatch will get you a perfect match, but the real world isn't like that. If you've got a shoot with lots of different cameras and you need to match those looks in the edit, can you do it without CineMatch? Well, yes, of course you can. But you need to know what you're doing. You also need a lot of time, because if you're not careful, you end up chasing yourself around in circles. Every adjustment seems to affect everything else. What CineMatch does is make the whole process simpler and much, much quicker. I would think, even if you're an experienced colorist, using CineMatch first will help you save time, because it'll get you in the ballpark before you start the grade. I think it's really good and a massive time saver. However, I suspect a lot of people will buy this program just to make their iPhone 12s look like Arri Alexas. Thanks for watching.